very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world, of course. Hey, I'm George Grant, saying thank you for joining us for today's edition of Good Day, Grenada, on this, the 16th day of July. Wow. You guys are already looking forward to the two holiday weekends we have coming up in August? Yeah, I know I am. Things have been going good, but boy, the workload sometimes seems to get to you, and you just can't wait until the day when, oh boy, the alarm goes off and you don't have to get up and head out. Anyhow, thanks for joining us, my dear friends. This morning, we do have some very topical and interesting stuff to begin the program. I guess many of you saw the statement or statements made by our Prime Minister during his recent visit to Montreal. Yeah. And at one point he said that no politician can touch public servants for doing their work. It's a quote from the Prime Minister. You're going to see that and hear it for yourself, and then you be the judge, okay? Now, I knew that that would ruffle a few feathers, and that's why I decided to pull it out and share it with you this morning. And yesterday, at least one union has stepped up and begged to disagree with that statement. You will see that as well. I'm going to share that with you as well this morning. Of course, this being weekday morning, yesterday was Monday, and yes, the GIS was at work yesterday, and they submitted a national report, which I'm going to run by you just a few minutes. And then, yeah man, Brother Ray Roberts is saddled up, and he's going to be joining us this morning, not on Zoom. He's actually coming in to sit right here with us this morning. And so, needless to say, George is in his element. Ray is going to be here. I get pumped up every time I have these guests coming in here. On Tuesday, Ray. On Wednesday, Sharon. Spoke to her this morning. She's going to be okay. And by the way, her hubby is doing just fine. And then on Thursday, Mr. Alan Baczynski. And then on Friday, BP, Brian Pitt. I mean, how could you not be pumped up when you got that sort of lineup 4 out of 5 times a week? Yeah. Well, this morning, Ray is going to be in here this morning. Just before I get cranked up here, let me take a quick look and see who they and who do they on Facebook. All right. First of all, she's early this morning. She is early. Don't know what the heck's gotten into this kid, man, but showing up early. Margaret, hi Mags, good to see you. Peter Bishop's chiming in from New York. He didn't specify Long Island this morning, so I'm not going to go out on a limb and say Pedro in Long Island. I ain't going to do that. Fitzroy Adams says 2 long weekends coming soon. Yeah, man. You too. Hey, Fitzroy. Looking forward to that. I think you all know by now, Georgie Porgy is not a carnival person, okay? But I do relish those weekends because it gives me a chance to have a breather. And I think, unless something really interesting happens between now and then, I think it's safe to say that I am actually going to take those 2 weekends off. Yeah. I'm not going to do anything on Emancipation Weekend. Well, except the Sunday program, but Monday, Tuesday, with your kind permission, I would like to have some time off. Is that okay with you? I hope so. And then the following weekend, which is Carnival weekend, I think I'm going to take that off too. Yeah. Maybe. Go get a swim. I don't know. So who else is there this morning? Let's see here. John says, can't stop. I have to check out my nearest shelter. John, you are so provocative. I was hoping I could go this morning without mentioning the shelters, but still, no sign of the shelters, no sign of the shelters this morning, John. Oh yeah. Ryan is saying good morning, and so is Mr. Oswald Darbo, and so is John Bruno, and Dennis Charles. You're watching me, eh, Dennis? Keep an eye, sir. Thank you so much. Really enjoy having you on the program, and not just appearing on SWGG, but showing up here when our family, or family, as T.F. Richards puts it, when we get together. Ryan says, love the haircut. Rejuvenating, it's, well, that haircut was, I had that haircut going on 2 weeks now. Ryan, yes, I'm glad somebody noticed. I deliberately decided not to say, have you noticed anything different this morning? Yeah, I'll tell you what's different. It's not so much the haircut. It's that I am not wearing this clunker. I usually have that clunker. But starting yesterday with Ruggles and Law Made Simple, I began using some wireless microphones. I have one on here now. Don't know if you can see it. They're really tiny. Take a look at that. Hey, that's a little wireless microphone. This is the one we're going to pin on Ray when he gets here, okay? So that's why I do look a little bit different this morning. Dennis says you're getting younger by the day. All right, Dennis, go ahead, rub it in. But I keep saying, when I grow up, man, I want to look like you. I still don't have the threads I see you wearing when you appear here on SWGG. Anthea is saying good morning. And Hazel Ferguson is saying good morning, Mr. G. Hazel, yeah, just George, man. I'm cool with that. Just George. Thank you so much, Hazel, for joining us. Ryan says, I don't like Carnival. I too don't like Carnival. Yeah. Margaret is trying to spur Ryan on. She says, hold on, where the heck is this? She says, Ryan, you notice that? Margaret, you're too fast, girl. John says, get up here, George. It's nice and quiet. He's talking about getting the Carriacou. Boy, let me tell you, that's a dream that's going to come true one of these days. Not just Carriacou, but Petite Martinique as well. All right. Arthur Langine. Arthur Langine say, yeah, you look much better. Oh, guys. My mother must have sent you guys to provoke me this morning. Anyhow, so sweet of you. Andy Smart says, can't believe headphones aged you. Andy, get off my case because I've been trying to reach you and you're not answering my calls. Andy, please get a hold of me. I really would love to talk with you. Andy, I'm assuming that he's in Trinidad now. He's Trinidadian. He used to live here. Haven't seen or heard from this guy for quite a while, but very, very, very experienced person in the field of television. And I hope you're still doing that, Andy. I really want to talk with you one of these days. Ryan says, yeah, I need your barber. Get yourself a big pencil sharpener. And he says, yeah, wireless is the way to go. All right, folks, enough of that chatter. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. Over the weekend, there were a number of statements made by Prime Minister Mitchell in Montreal, questions which sparked a flurry of comments on social media and on the streets of Grenada, one of which was a message to civil servants that, quote, no politician can touch you for doing your work. There were other comments as well, but don't take my word for it. Listen and rationalize for yourself.
So, but the problem is this. Through successive governments, not just this government, this has happened in the past. Many of these things have happened. The question you ask yourself, how is this supposed, how did it happen? And why is it continue to happen? That's the issue. And we have to be honest with ourselves. And one thing you know about me, I never duck my responsibility as Prime Minister. Something happens in government that I'm the first person that take blame is me, because I'm the head. I'm not like certain people or other leaders where they pass the blame on everybody else. Accept your role and then look for the other people that may have been a mistake too. But let me tell you this. The accounting, so the government must take responsibility. The leadership of the NNP, the leadership of the NDC should, because it happened a lot on the NDC where thousands of dollars have been spent on people who should not have been, bills that should not be paid. It has happened and it continues to happen. We have to cut the neck of this fast. Now, so I accept my role. The government has to accept the role. The Ministry of Public Utilities, who is responsible for the question of telephone, for example, have to accept responsibility. But the question is, who is the accounting officer in the government? It's not the politician. It is the... No, my friend, no, my friend. I just said I accept my role as leader for what has happened. So I have not ducked responsibility, my brother. I want to make it very clear. But the government minister does not touch money in the public service. The public servant is the accounting officer in the public service. We have to get it. If an inquiry is held on any government department in the country, the person that has to go and give account for what happens is not the politician, you know. It is the permanent secretary and the accounting officers. And I always keep telling public servants, you are the responsible. If you see a minister doing something, you have a right, even if it's the prime minister, to put it, stop it, or expose him or her. Don't be afraid, they can't do anything. No politician can touch you for doing your work in protecting the taxpayers, because he would be a dead politician when it goes out there.
Now, that was Prime Minister Mitchell speaking in Montreal at a town hall meeting on Friday evening, I think it was, okay? You heard. Yesterday, the Public Workers Union called a media conference to address the matter of PhoneGate. One of the persons who spoke at that conference was a young lady by the name of Daisy Hazard. She is the public relations officer for the union. Her response to the Prime Minister's comment brought back a lot of memories. And I want you to listen just as carefully to her as you listened to the Prime Minister.
That's in principle. What happens in practice on a day-to-day basis? Can our permanent secretaries and can our senior government officials do their jobs the way that they ought to? Can they hold persons accountable in the way that they ought to? Can they advise government and government ministers in the way that they ought to? And members of the media and members of the public, I beg you, answer those questions yourself. And let your recall of what has happened to public servants over the years who have dared to do their jobs according to the letter of the law. What has happened to them? Where are they today? That's my answer.
All right, there you have it. Now, I'm trying to move along here. A couple of comments. First of all, Anthea says, he needs to stop. Isn't he also the Minister of Finance? That's a good question. He is the Minister of Finance, also the Minister of a lot of things. He has a ton of ministries in his portfolio. Arthur Langine says, please help my PM, please. So says Arthur. Donna Joseph says, he, the PM, talking about he always stand up and take on his role and not blame anyone. But here he is in Canada blaming others, trying to make himself look good. Like he forgot what he did to Mr. Richard Duncan and Ms. Roberts for confronting him some years ago. Go ask Mr. Duncan. So says Donna. Yeah, Donna, I think a lot of us remember, and I believe that's the reason why so many people got their feathers ruffled when these comments were made in Montreal. All right, let me take a break, come back with the GIS.
Mr. Watts, wait. Why are you removing my sign?
Sorry, Larry, but you can't put the sign on an electricity pole. That is an accident waiting to happen.
Mr. Watts, man, I just finished this new house. I need to put up a sign so that people would know that the apartment is for rent. Why can't I put my sign on the pole?
Larry, you should know better. Think about it. Nails, staples, glue and signs make it difficult for linesmen to quickly and safely climb poles, and it can delay their response time when there is an emergency. These objects can prevent linesmen responding as quickly as they should in an emergency.
You know, I've never thought about those things. But you're absolutely right.
On top of that, Larry, your sign was covering the pole identification number. What if someone needed to report a fault? The pole number tells Grenlec exactly where the problem is and allows them to respond faster.
Whoa, I really didn't consider all these things, you know. Come, let me help you take this down.
Remember, be safe, be smart. No more signs, banners, or posters on electricity poles.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Sports Incorporated Market Summer Camp 2019. Summer Camp starts July 6th at Progress Park and moves to Fawn Playfield on July 8th and Mud Rouge Playfield on July 9th and 10th. Basketball Camp starts on July 15th at Grenville Basketball Court, then moves to Grandans Basketball Court from July 16th to 19th. Camp open for both boys and girls, age 8 to 18. Runs from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. daily. Log on to Life Quality Sports Inc. Facebook page and register now for this summer's basketball and soccer camp. For more information, call 417-0783 or 537-2400. Life Quality Sports. Let's get better together.
All right, I'm trying to get everybody in before we move along. First of all, John Bruno says, our PS, our permanent secretary here in Carriacou, was placed in an office with nothing to do, all because he was doing his job. See, I'm not the only one who's seen this stuff. Fitzroy Adams says, KCM, you tend to forget quite a lot of things lately. Who is responsible for taxpayers having to pay $40 million because of victimization? Donna Joseph says, ask Ms. Gemma Bain Thomas and Mr. Willen Thompson, and just look at the outcome of the amount of and the amount of money we Grenadians have to pay for his ego. Margaret Francis responds to John here by saying, John Bruno, as you know, the list of individuals who found themselves in a similar situation is as long as from here to hell. Donna Joseph says Keith Mitchell is suffering from dementia of convenience. And so he believes that the Grenadians in Canada and the diaspora have the same kind of dementia. So he continues to feed them this kind of kakapul. I haven't heard that word in eons. Kakapul. So that's how you spell it, eh, Donna? And yes, lots of his supporters drink it without the balls to call him out. All right, folks. GIS.
Ministry of Agriculture's quarantine unit implements strategies to step up its education campaign for travelers. Details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Monday, July 15th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. The plant quarantine unit of the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands aims to beef up its awareness campaign to alert travelers about the risk associated with carrying certain types of food, plants and other agricultural items in passenger baggage. Details from Mina Booker, the ministry's public relations officer.
Grenada is looking forward to receiving support to safeguard food and agriculture through the Travelers Don't Pack a Pest program, or DPAP, which is supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. The planned quarantine unit of the Ministry of Agriculture is the key negotiating body for the project. This week, the unit hosted a delegation from the program with the aim to develop a signage proposal for funding and implementation at the different ports of entry here. They also toured the facility to identify potential sites for erecting these signs. Dennis Martin, head of the delegation, in making his presentation to members of different departments at the MBIA, said that the organization is closing the loop on raising awareness on how there can be greater control of the number of pests and disease transferred at the points of entry.
And with that increased volume comes an increased risk that travelers take when they unwittingly pack a little bit of that vacation or a little bit of home when they travel. You know, that mango or that orange or banana, may harbor some plant pests that could have a devastating effect on the environments and the islands in the Caribbean. And the benefits of this program are pretty much the same whether you're talking about the United States or the Caribbean and any island in the Caribbean. It's geared towards protecting the agriculture of our countries, the livelihoods of the people that work in agriculture, and also protecting our food supply. We'll be expanding on the domestic side, and as you can see, we're expanding in the international side with Grenada forming a partnership with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and working towards implementation of the program here on the island.
The Travelers Don't Pack a Pest program includes airing a 60-second video and placement of signs at strategic areas in major airports and cruise ship ports, along with the distribution of other public information materials to the traveling public. These program elements deliver a simple message: when you travel, declare agriculture items, don't pack a pest. Plant Quarantine Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Mr. Thaddeus Peters, underscored the importance of prevention when it comes to pest and disease management.
Fruits, vegetables, plants and plant products, they are a pathway for the movement of plant pest and disease. And when new disease move into new territories, it can have devastating effect on the local agriculture, the local economy. Lots of people get affected, and we have had a number of historical cases in Grenada. Currently, we are dealing with the citrus greening disease. From the 90s, we would have had the pink mealybug when people would have we lost trade. We had the fruit fly, the West Indian fruit fly. Now we're seeing the worms in the plums. We would have lost that trade to the US. And to regain those markets takes a lot. And by that time, millions of dollars would have been lost to the economy, and a lot of livelihoods would have been affected. So it's important to stress on prevention.
Lenworth Gordon, Marketing and Property Manager at the Grenada Airport Authority, outlined the benefits of the undertaking.
So we're always seeking to raise the level of awareness of the traveling public about the do's and don'ts, and this would just be another one of the initiatives aimed at that overall public awareness, so that when passengers, transit the airport, they abide by the rules and regulations. And definitely no one really wants pests to be transiting the borders, whether it's to the USA or here. So overall, it's a good initiative to raise public awareness about the dangers of packing pests in your luggage.
The program has supported more than 50 ports of entry where signs and or videos are displayed. The Travelers Don't Pack a Pest program is designed to raise public awareness about the risks associated with passengers potentially introducing pests and disease into Grenada, the United States, and the Caribbean region by carrying agricultural and food items into their luggage and
Permanent representative of Grenada to the OAS pointed to the importance of two-way communication on the road to consensus building. During the recent handover ceremony, Ms. Smith said her delegation is committed to the principles enshrined in the Charter of the OAS in 3. She said it is their collective responsibility as members of the organization to ensure it lives up to the tenets of its charter, in an atmosphere of respect for the sovereign rights of member states, small and large. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Every summer, the Spice Island of Grenada is transformed into the Caribbean's biggest party, Spice Man.
coming down to Grenada.
Come experience the warmth of our people, trending theme fats, the revelry, the pageantry, and why we are the Jab Nation. The Kids Our Future shines on August 3rd in the Children's Carnival Frolic and the Junior Calypso Show. 7 beauties take center stage as the Queen of Carnival is crowned on majestic Thursday, August 8th. The prestigious Soca and Groovy Monarchs are crowned on Carnival Friday night, August 9th. Enjoy the pulsating rhythms of the Still Pan at the Junior and Senior Panorama on Carnival Saturday, August 10th, and Real Steel, August 17th. The March Gras crowns the Calypso Monarch on Carnival Sunday, August 11th. 2 days of frolicking in the Caribbean sun kicks off on Monday morning, August 12th, with the biggest juve in the world, followed by pageant and Monday night mass. The creativity and splendor of our mass parades on the road Carnival Tuesday, August 13th. Join us in the Jab Nation of Grenada, August 8th to 12th for Spice Mass 2019. Many events, one carnival.
Welcome back. Youth parliamentarians had their say on the Electronic Crimes Act of 2013 and the Electronic Crimes Amendment Act of 2014 at the sitting of the National Youth Parliament, which marks the final in a series of youth parliamentary sittings. The act seeks to provide for the prevention of and punishment for electronic crimes. Here are some highlights of the sitting, which was held on Friday.
The government firmly believes that the act will deter persons from engaging in malicious activities online, such as identity theft, electronic forgery, electronic terrorism, and misuse of encryption.
The people's right to have their innocence intact until due process is given, not considered. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that the law is clear, precise, and certain. Is it that in desperation to address the issues of putting measures in place to curb what is dubbed as modern crimes, exacerbated by technology, that we are trampling underfoot our people's entitlements?
Education is important, and we're saying amend and educate our people as it relates to this bill, because Grenadians are a set of people with phonetic, and that simply means we don't have ethics when it comes to phone. Somebody dying, picture. Somebody hurting, picture. And what we're saying, Mr. Speaker, as an opposition, take your time, amend, and educate.
I understand why the government may have felt compelled to make changes to the legislation, but removing this section completely was not feasible. Grenada is not the only country in the region, Mr. Speaker, with an Electronic Crimes Act. And we are certainly not the only one that face criticism and backlash for taking such a step and implementing such a legislation.
And finally, in related news, Grenada's most outstanding youth parliamentarian in the January Youth Parliamentary sitting will represent the country in the 44th Regional Conference of the Caribbean in the Americas and the Atlantic region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, the CPA. Nealon Franklin will accompany Government Senator Keisha Williams and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Michael Pear. He says it provides an opportunity for the voice of the youth to be heard on global issues.
I will be attending the 44th Regional Conference of the Caribbean, the Americas, and the Atlantic region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. I will be participating in the 15th Regional Youth Parliament as a member of the opposition. The topic to be debated is surrounding border security. I think the topic is timely and important, taking into consideration what's going on in the region and around the world as it relates to migration and people moving for different reasons, whether it be social or political crises, etc.
Franklin is confident that involvement in initiatives like these will be beneficial in the long run.
I think it is important for young people to participate in activities like these because what it does is give government and government officials an idea as to the youth perspective on a lot of issues facing that the country is facing and young people are facing. We often hear people say the youth The youth is the future. We are the ones to take up the mantle after the older folks leave. And now we have an opportunity where we can show or prove ourselves to the older folks that, okay, we are ready. We understand what's going on. We appreciate what's going on. And we believe that we are ready. I would encourage as much young people throughout the tri-island state to participate in these activities.
The conference, which has been held in Trinidad, will conclude on July 19th. That story just ended the national report for today, Monday, July 15th. Let's recap the top story. Ministry of Agriculture's quarantine unit implements strategies to step up its education campaign for travelers. On behalf of everyone here at the Government Information Service who made this newscast possible, I'm Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Wow. You know, Grenada, I was counting on you this morning, and you did not let me down. What am I talking about? I'm going to share some comments with you, something I observed during that newscast, and I'm glad that you folks out there noticed it as well. First of all, Margaret says, so let me ask now, what is the point of these distracting objects on them gill and them head? Margaret, thank you. I sat here going, oh my God, am I really seeing this? John Bruno says, this is not youth speaking, it's just a play being put on. They're referring to the youth parliamentarians who were doing their thing there. John says, that's exactly it, a distraction. You know? Margaret says, yeah, you're sure right about that. And then John goes on to ask, who selects these parliamentarians? I can't answer that question. Maybe Ray is just walking into the studio, so maybe we might get him to answer that for you in a little while. Arthur Langine says, most of the ministers don't have children of their own. So what are they talking about? And Arthur Langine says, thank God she is finished. So Brother George, you can continue. Arthur is not a big fan of the national report, so he thinks I can continue. Now, just let me comment on this youth parliamentarian sitting. Folks, wasn't it not too long ago, we were ranting and raving about shedding the bonds of colonialism. And we see these kids, these are our future leaders. These are the people who supposedly will be telling you and me how to live and what to do. And they dress them up. It's like a carnival. Did you see the hats these people were wearing? I guess that's what Margaret was talking about. Did you see the hats they were wearing? Their demeanor? Huh? Sad, folks. If that's what we are preparing our youth ministers, our future leaders to be, boy, we're in one hell of a mess. It is pathetic. The demeanor, the words of these youngsters. Most of us are hoping for something better in our parliament. That Ray, hold on. Hold on, Ray. I'm coming by you in just a minute. Donna Joseph says these so-called youth parliament folks are handpicked and they are children of the NNP faithful. None of those young people are independent thinkers. Lots of their presentations have to be vetted by their MPs. So it's just a farce. No need for me to say a whole lot more. You guys got this whole thing figured out. Pilgrims, let Georgie Porgy take a little break here. Ray is all saddled up. We'll get to him right after.
Conveniently located in the Grandand Shopping Center for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am. But didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadans will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
But I guess you could segue into anything.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Easy living should be convenient. With Grenlec, it is. Dial 237 for any Grenlec department, or for customer service, streetlight outages, or if it's unsafe to trim a tree near a power line. For streetlights and service issues, please note the pole number. From just about anywhere, you can also check your bill balance with our information. Just keep your Grenlec access number handy. Dial 237 for Grenlec. It's that easy. Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
There he is, Mr. Ray Roberts this morning. Good morning, Mr. Roberts, and how art thou?
Well, I would think I feel good. I hope I'm good.
And you look good.
Well, that may be part of it also. So good morning to your listeners and viewers, and certainly hope you're having a great morning.
They've been expecting you. Ray, listen, man. So much I want to talk to you about this morning, but let's start with PhoneGate. Huh?
Well, I just want to see, because I know it's a widely discussed issue, but I want to join the growing list of Grenadians, both at home and abroad, who have expressed shock and dismay that such large sums of money had been used, or perhaps still is being used in cell phone calls for a political party. But to me, what is most disgusting, George, is the fact that the culprit or the culprits, and in this case we know of one particular person, seems to be untouched, continues as normal, and our leader, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, seems to be looking for people to blame who he assumes have done it in the past. I mean, we couldn't reach anything lower than that. And then there was this despicable human being last night on Beyond the Headlines talking about national security, where phone calls and who unleashed the list of people who were called. I mean, that should be a most severe punishment for the people involved in PhoneGate, particularly the non-parliamentarian, the non-public officer, because you cannot have a government phone. I had one. When I went into the Senate in 2013, 2 weeks after I gave up the phone, I brought it in and released it, and my name was taken out completely. I know permanent secretaries, as soon as they retire, same thing, a week or two after they drop the phone in. So there's really no excuse for someone who has been a minister and 4 years later still uses the government phone at a cost.
A senator.
Yeah, he was a minister. He was junior minister of information.
Oh, okay.
So really and truly, he was a junior minister. He might not have been in cabinet, but he had the status of a minister. So I think, George, it sends a message that Grenada clearly does not care about decency to start with, honesty. All that is out of the window. All that reigns now is who could be a greater crook than the other.
That's harsh. That's harsh. Ray, you know, the Prime Minister was in Montreal on the weekend, and he was asked to react to those things. And one of the things that was said, the PM suggested, and I played it this morning, that public workers ought to, tell the government what to do, and shouldn't be afraid to do that. Well, you saw the reaction, I would imagine, from the union yesterday, the PRO.
Yes, I saw a bit of it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, there's one gentleman, his first name is just out of my head, Paisidi. He used to work in the customs. 4 years ago, he still wears his uniform. He's on a desk doing absolutely nothing because he did what he had to do the customs. And whoever that person was, maybe a blessed person. And the consequences is 4 years on him. He has not been promoted. He has been transferred to some ministry that doesn't exist. And all he did was just to use the rules that they gave him and perform the rules. Basically, anybody could ask him. I mean, there's no question about it. So you ask, in fact, let me put it this way. The Prime Minister basically knows what's happening in every ministry. He shuffles around PSs. I worked there for 39 years, so I can talk. I remember, even in Gary days, you had PSs in the ministry for 2 and 3 years. In Herbert Blaze era, you had people there for 2 years, 3 years, some people permanently in the ministry. I mean, let's take Larry Wilson. He spent about 25 years in the Ministry of Finance. I mean, there were people who knew the job and performed the job. You look around any ministry today, there is no permanent secretary who has been in a ministry for as long as 2 years. Everybody is being bounced around for whatever reason. So really and truly, permanent secretaries don't get a hold of a ministry. They are so much driven around that before you start, you are replaced by someone else. And again, in my time, you had people who you climbed the ladder. Today, you don't have to climb any ladder. Your loyalty determines, and many people know what's happening sometimes. They turn their eyes. I mean, let's take Gemma Bean.
Somebody mentioned her this morning.
Right. What the Prime Minister to me is, I would say that, he may be harsh, he's a despicable human being. I could never believe someone would behave like that in public. I mean, even Trump sometimes seems to climb down. This gentleman climbs up on everything. I mean, Honorable Tillman Thomas, when he handled the Bristol thing, whether you like it or not, he took a stand and he performed what he believed then was right. I mean, here is a gentleman. He was in the church last Thursday, I was there. And he was paying tribute to his uncle, and he spoke about the uncle's moral conviction and how he's pursuing it. And the church is full of people. He's on the Catholic pulpit making those, I would say, derogatory comments. Because, I mean, the uncle was a pretty decent man. I knew him well. We went to the same church. But you could see he's unrepentant because he knows the boss is really behind him. And that's, to me, what sends the message that is hurtful. Because, I mean, you look around the history, say what you want about previous prime ministers and so forth and leaders. I never know any of them. And I worked with all the prime ministers since independence. I don't know of any who have stomached what Dr. Mitchell seems to make a joke of now.
You know, I just noticed you used the word despicable there, and I'm very cautious about that kind of language because you know that George Grant is a primary target.
Right.
So I have to be careful and disassociate myself with that remark. John Bruno, who's in Carriacou, watching you now, he says, now we have political secretaries. In other words, not permanent secretaries, political secretaries. It's so
I don't know
obvious
if he's
here
right
in
about
Carriacou.
that. I think the unfortunate thing is that the rules are not observed, and people have economic challenges. Some people don't want to lose their jobs. So I think you have to look at it from both sides. It's a democracy on paper. I mean, you know, the colonial era, and even Gary era, Gary might have transferred you to a job that is perhaps not worthy of your qualification. But, I mean, I know people who are saying to me, in fact, there's a young lady, I wouldn't call her because she's still in South. She spent about a year crying. She had just completed a bachelor's, and they put her in something called, what, waste management. Basically, it was just a journey home and journey back. Yeah, I mean, there are many people who will tell you exactly. So, there are people who would love to do what the rules require. But then again, some people have their children maybe in college, university. They have their house to pay for. Maybe they say, look, let me not interfere. I alone may not make a difference.
Well, you know, the president of the Public Workers Union, Rachel Roberts, she sort of alluded to that last night on Beyond the Headlines, you know. John in Carriacou is also, Carriacou, you guys are really active this morning. John is saying, Ray, isn't that the PS gets to find out what's really going on and then gets moved?
Well, all that, it depends, because you see, Grenada is run on expediency. And if you are in the rules and playing it by the rules, you have to realize that expediency can't work in some areas. They have to go through the system. But there are some people who can shortcut it, and you know, the PM has said it, red tape must not hold up a production. I don't know what that means, but I'm saying to you that that's what is happening in Grenada. Everything is shortcut, and there seems to be no trace. You can't follow a trace. I mean, let's put it this way, this phone call thing there, you will tell me that, I mean, the party doesn't know that that is what is happening. The party must be getting accounts, bills, everything, every month. I mean, a party can't be functioning just like that. The guy is not making any huge salary. The job he's doing there maybe what, $3,000, $4,000, even so many. So the point I'm making that even the party knows that what is happening there certainly had something else in the matter besides the pistol. So I think really and truly, what I would like to see, George, and that's what I would like. I have never seen it in Grenada, but I hope there are things that in the Constitution that will provide for that. We as citizens can take the government to court for what is a wanted abuse of taxpayers' money. Because my fear is that after this week and next week, this thing may die down and no consequences. You know, I would hope that there are lawyers and there are citizens who will be prepared to challenge this thing. I would hope that we'll see some protests in front of the Ministry of Finance.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I will certainly join it.
Here's a question for you from Fitzroy Adams. He says, Ray, my question to you, do you think this man should be questioned and charged for misuse of government property?
It's theft, it's high theft. There's no question about it. In fact, if you read the rules of the public service, and that will certainly get you a perspective, because who authorized it? You have completed your stint as a junior minister. You're not in cabinet, you're not in the public service. You're a private person. So how do you access money from the treasury, that's what you're accessing, money from the consolidated fund. The person should have been arrested. I mean, there could be no excuse. I mean, George, imagine I'm out of the public service now 5 years, and I'm using a government phone for 5 years. Imagine George Grant, how many years you out of Radio Grenada now? About 25.
30.
And, right. And you still having a phone? I mean, and the bill for 3 months is in excess of $70,000. Just compare that again. People are retiring after they assign years, 28 years and a quarter or whatever it is. They're not getting their pension. And here is a gentleman, and here are people enjoying a benefit that you're not even entitled to.
Yeah.
So it's really, 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 I mean, I don't understand that. In fact, I tell you, I have lost respect for the entire system because even though it had to be a sham, I would have expected to call in the police and the FIU and to create a facade if you want a political facade. But to blatantly talk about other people do it, I don't know of me. And I spent, as I tell you, just about 3 months short of 39 years there. So I don't know of many or anybody who did it. And I spoke to some PSs who have retired in the last 5-6 years. They don't know about that too.
Let me take a moment here to say good morning to our good friend Tessa Barry. Tessa is listening to you this morning from the airport in Panama.
Oh, Panama.
What you doing there, girl?
She's shopping big.
She's shopping. Okay. Kipling says, you are right, Ray. They know, but think we are dumb to know that they know. Okay, Kipling. Margaret says, in PRG times, there was a saying that a people united can never be defeated. If the public workers were united in doing the right thing, then the politicians couldn't manipulate them. But you have too many people who are willing to sell their souls for 30 pieces of silver under the pretext of fear.
Well, she's right about that. And that's the problem. You have a bulging, what do you call it, 340 list. And you have a Imani group. So when you combine all of that together, certainly public servants are not going to be in, that's the Public Service Commission appointed people. Are going to be fewer. And there are some of them who, as I said, economically would not want to risk. So I think, without any doubt, the government might have done a good job in creating its own public service and its own group of people that, in the event of any industrial action, at least you can keep some areas going.
Margaret also says here, I have no respect for the Judases, also known as public servants, who sell out the public they are supposed to serve.
I wouldn't go that far. I have no respect for the politicians, actually. Absolutely none. I would be a little more dignified to say that I think this is the worst group that I've experienced. All what people would have said about Sir Eric would go to heaven 3 times before what we have now.
All right. John Bruno says, despite Sheldon, the other ministers are abusing the system too.
Well, that could be said, but I mean, as a minister, perhaps they could go to cabinet and create their own limit to the use of the phone. They could make it whatever they choose. They are the lawmakers. But we cannot in any condition see merit in Scott. We cannot. It's just not. And in Pablo, who is not a minister, he is a former parliamentarian, just like me.
Ray, listen, we're running out of time, boy, but hold on. John Bruno says, can you imagine ministers getting allowances more than their salaries? Listen, Ray, again, in Montreal on the weekend, let's be honest here. The Prime Minister openly admitted he accepted responsibility for what happened, okay? He did. And he also pointed out that he, unlike other ministers and other governments, admitted that they were in the wrong, okay? But he was pointing to other ministers who don't admit. And he says he doesn't blame other people. And then, in the next breath, he went on to blame the accountant and the Minister of Finance. He had blamed the civil servants. He blamed Digicel.
I heard all of that. Jerry George, not Jerry.
Junior George.
Junior George brought a bit of it. I didn't pick up everything, but once I started listening to that, I turned out to listen to something more intelligent. So I didn't gather the entire presentation. You know, I thought it was such a sham that, again, I was going to be kind again to say, you know, sometimes it's better not to consume rubbish and keep your mind and your thought clear. Because, George, there is no defending in this. It's just straightforward. Straightforward. It's just like when you had that senator doing the program on the TV. I mean, what? You imagine the senator hosting that program last night? You imagine the senator? So that's what I'm saying, that there are things, I don't know how you could defend some things. There are some things that are just wrong, and to make the story short, just say, Lord, forgive me, people forgive me. This is an era I really wish my subordinate or my colleague did not commit. It hurts me deep. But just going around and blaming the post-civil servants.
But the public reaction tells me that the public is alert. They know what's going on. So don't let your blood pressure go up.
I wouldn't get there. The only thing I'm telling you, I heard you talk about the young people in Parliament. I wouldn't blame them. That's what we have. I mean, last night I saw, just to finish, I saw somebody who keeps masks, costume masks around, and I said to her, well, I hope you make another 20 years, she said, that never going to be too old. I said, well, then we just be playing like in Brazil, no clothes.
Arthur Lagine says, Brother Ray, you are saying the God's truth. Anthony DeRick says, it baffles me that we do not hear about resignations when scandals break out in Caribbean countries.
Well, in Grenada in particular.
We hear about resignations in the United States all the time.
But in Grenada, then nobody resigns. I mean, George, just imagine you were the manager of this station here, and you are the manager, and you have employees who did that to your organization. I mean, he or she would be on the air, even though it's for a period of a day or two. Take a break. Take a break. Let me crucify you in the public eyes. But the thing means nothing. It means nothing. I mean, I don't know. I just can't believe that I'm in a country where you just talk about clothing. You know, as I said to somebody once, when I started to work, I remember Gary had a cricket match in the park, and I went with my jersey. And Sir Eric says, Ray, good morning, how are you? I said, good, sir. He said, you don't look like work today. Monday morning, Mr. Bradford called me, he said, Prime Minister was disappointed in you. I said, what do, sir? He said, you moved a dress. I said, what's cricket? He said, you weren't invited. You were sent to work. so as I said, I learned from things like that. Because I was sent to work, but I felt it's just a game. No, I'm saying, set standards. That's what we're not having in Grenada. We're blaming civil servants. The civil servants, I mean, even though he or she must have instructions, bypass that. We must commend Kem. Somebody tell me he's not a journalist. I'm crediting him for the best piece of investigative journalism in Grenada for a long time.
You know, it's interesting you should bring that up, because in the PM's town hall meeting, he said that he was the one who broke the story.
Well, I'm glad he's the one that did it.
Well, you know, that puzzled me. And again, that got reaction. It puzzled me because I didn't hear about this from the PM. I heard about this from Kem Jones. And I think that's how Grenada knew about it. So how long was the PM sitting on, he knew about it, how long was he sitting on this and not telling the people? But Kem Jones went,
well, I think it's tongue slip. He's not known for things like that. I think it's tongue slip. I think, like all of us, age is creeping in. And we do miss it at times. And I predict many more of this will happen.
Tessa Barry says, George, I heard the Prime Minister say that this happened a lot under the NDC. My question is, if he knew this was happening from when he was an opposition leader, how come he never raised it then, and how come he did not put measures in place for it to not happen under his administration?
Good question. George, as I said, you got to get serious words in the dictionary to describe this human being. You're not going to win this thing. This thing is, to me, a scenario of just telling people what ought not to be said, which is really trickery. I can't find a better word. And that's what is happening. I mean, as I said, I appreciated the fact that sometimes as public officers, we don't keep our eyes focused on the rules and what we ought to be doing, and therefore blunders occur. But George, I don't know of any public officer, and I've been there a long time, and I've been involved in both the union and in public life. I can't recall anything like that happening. I mean, a non-public officer, I could recall, pointing to corruption in ministries, but I have never heard about a non-public officer who utilizes the facility of the consolidated funds of the taxpayers of Grenada, and the leader of the country seems not concerned, has not called in the police to find out how long that has been going, how many people involved, within a 3-month period, and give the nation a complete report. That is what I expected. The leader of the nation to say, look, this has to be investigated thoroughly. If crimes were committed, all the participants must be dealt with in the court. Due process has to take place. I haven't heard those words.
I'm trying to bail out of here, but the folks on social media won't let me. Fitzroy says, Ray, I heard the PM say that there is a cap. It is our duty to know what is the cap. It is our money that is being misused.
I know that in some issues there is a cap. I can't recall what was the cap for GIS as director, but I know there's a cap.
And I think
I never went over it, actually. I could assure you that.
I think Rachel from the Public Workers Union, the president, I think she also said last night that there is a cap.
Yeah, there is a cap.
Okay. Andy Smart says, an indictment on how a combination of poor management, ineptitude, incompetence, and dishonesty seem to be the order of the day in the Caribbean.
Morning, Andy, and I really like the last word, dishonesty. I don't think it's really incompetence. I think it's total dishonesty. I think, really and truly, George, because of the situation we are in, we all have become complacent. It's a one-party state. It's a king ruling. There is a silence of the Chamber of Commerce, a silence of all reputable organization. I think that is what has happened. We have formed something what we call the social partners, and we have turned nearly everybody dumb. I think that is what has happened.
You know, it's very disappointing to see the lack of statements coming out in the media from people like civil society, from the churches especially.
The Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Yeah.
That should be the principal one.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That is what has happened.
Kipling Francis says, they don't resign, they get promoted.
That is correct. I mean, I tell you, here's a guy, I can't imagine that. He's on the radio like nothing happened. He is saying to you and others who are taking an interest in the welfare of Grenada, George, go to hell. You all don't make any intelligent sense to the powers that be. That is what the PM has allowed this guy to do the whole of Grenada.
Is he still on the air?
He was up there yesterday.
Up there yesterday, okay.
Yeah.
Tessa Barry agrees with Kipling. She says, people get rewarded for doing wrong. Margaret says, you know, George, KCM's statement about breaking the story is not far-fetched. It is not unusual for people with an agenda to orchestrate things like that. The question is, who stands to benefit from such a thing if KCM was indeed the orchestrator of the leak? If it was in fact KCM, who leaked it?
I doubt that. I think there are some, listen, there are people who they reach a limit. There are people who have reached a limit. Because, George, there is no doubt about the corruption that is in this country. I mean, it is unbelievable. Let's just turn to the CBI, the Citizenship by Investment. We now have sold what? In excess of 2,500 passports within a year or two. I mean, you know who the people are? In Antigua, they have to go take a public, whatever it is, declaration that they're a citizen of Antigua. Name and picture must be published. Margaret will know in the United States that is done. We don't know. So, is this an open game? Where's the transparency? So, things like that can tell you that we fested with that kind of behavior. I think the PM just misspoke. He, a slip of the tongue. He said, I broke the story. But I don't think.
Speaking about caps, Sean's Julian says it's a WICB cap.
A West Indies cap.
Yeah, West Indies cap. And Arthur Langine says, Brother Ray, you can't put a cat to watch cheese.
Sometimes I do that. But then there's no cheese when I return. I have about 6 or 7 around home.
Simeon McVeigh says, you've got your thinking cap on. What if, just what if, it's a ploy to get rid of the few entangled in this mess without dirtying his hands? Just what if? And I guess this person is commenting on what Margaret said.
Let's put it this way. Scott don't bring any great value to anything. I mean, it's propaganda on the radio. He's shamelessly and brave enough to do that. But, I mean, let's put it this way. It's no great technical skill in the caliber of Alistair McIntyre, the late Alistair McIntyre, Mr. Boudou or something like that. It is, I mean, people you can, easily replace. I mean, they don't bring any great, yes, they're making a contribution. I don't know if they're making a contribution. Let me take that one back. Because the contribution is, as far as I'm concerned, right now, it's one that the police should be dealing with. I just don't see that, George. I don't see the PM breaking the story. I just think he slipped of the tongue.
Anthony Park says, the more I think about this serious matter, the more I see the need for public, independent investigation. But how can it get for the ground when how can it even get off the ground when the churches, the trade unions, civil society groups, and chambers remain dumb? Well, actually, Anthony, in all fairness, the trade unions spoke out yesterday. And this morning at the start of the program, I did play an excerpt from their public relations officer. Margaret says, Ray, I don't doubt that there are people who have reached a limit. But a good reporter knows to always reserve a portion for doubt and the what if questions.
Well, Margaret, no doubt you have merit in what you say, but Margaret, I think sometimes you watch things happening around you. As you say, you want to keep your eyes shut, you want to turn your face the other way. But then it boils to the point and you say, that's enough, I'm going to do something about it. And I think that's what has happened in this case. People have said, oh Lord, this cow is being milked and milked and milked by one person, nobody else drinking. And let me just spill the milk. I think that is what has happened. And I would expect to see a lot more of that.
Ray, listen. Them people had to go on walk.
Oh my God.
Hold on. But I'm going to try and sneak one more in here. Yvonne Joseph says, yes, Mr. Grant, he's still on the air. I heard Kem playing a tape this morning where he, Sheldon Scott, calling Grenadians dumb, stupid, and idiotic.
Well, he's right. The leader approves it. The leader approves it. Let's not get away. Listen, George. You own this place, and you have a limit to everything. You made it clear a while ago. Because this is George Grant, my language was not appropriate, so you're not associating with it. The PM has the same prerogative. He's the Minister of Information, he's the Minister of Finance. He can guide the cabinet, instruct that this station, because it's not a station, it's a private station, the money was used to create whatever. So let's have an investigation into it and see, how many people are involved. Have you heard any news item asking that, even the FIU perform a preliminary investigation? Have you heard anything about the manager of the station disassociating himself with what's happening? Have you heard anything that the manager has suspended the program because of allegation of state theft? Come on, George, the chief of staff knows all what is happening. And unless he puts his feet down, George, it is a normal day. And the guy sees it as his blessings to continue to do. He'll attack you guys and me and everybody else after. I don't know, I've just said something to myself. We don't have the numbers, but I trust that more people will be coming. But you're right to see what he's saying, that we're not intelligent.
Anthony Park says, well, it's good to know that something is beginning to happen. Cheers to the trades union. Fitzroy says, Ray, we have to continue talking about this issue until we get results. And finally, and I mean finally this time, folks, we got to get out of here. Go and do your work. Okay. Pay your taxes. Arthur says, I heard it myself, but only in Grenada can this happen. He's talking about the remarks that were being made by Mr. Scott this morning. Hey, Ray, listen, I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more. But you know, so many of these things come up, and after a week or two, everything got quiet.
Well, I trust that there are people who will keep this fire burning as long as possible. As I said, I would hope we as citizens can find some attorneys that can look through our constitution, whatever laws we have, to see if citizens can take the minister. I am willing to be part of it. I'm openly declared I'm willing to be part of it, to take the Minister of Finance to court for what is allowing an abuse of the consolidated funds.
Did you hear Jimmy Bristol on here yesterday morning?
No.
Oh, listen, man. Jimmy just won a case in the High Court where, you know, courts have ruled against government on a lot of things, which is, like you heard this morning, costing us something like $40 million.
Right.
Okay? And many of these people don't see a black cent.
I know.
Okay? Well, listen, that could be coming to an end.
I hope so.
Check us out on Sunday morning. I'm going to rerun that on Sunday morning.
Okay.
Because the courts have now ruled that these people who have been wronged and ruled in favor of by the courts can confiscate government
property. Well, I hope that happens, because Dorset Charles, 24 years ago, was his aquatic facilities. They were destroyed by the state, the SSU. I saw it, and I spoke to him a week ago, and he said, Ray, I have not received a penny, even though the court ruled several years ago that I should be compensated. So I'm happy to hear that.
Wait until you hear it Sunday morning. Check it out. Julian says, it's unfortunate that taxpayers have to tighten their belts to pay taxes, be under structural adjustment, and this nonsense occurs.
Sean, we all know, and we perhaps could only pray God that it doesn't have long to go.
Charmaine the Leal says, good morning. This will not go away in a week or so. We have to continue talking about it until they get sick. And Sean says he should be made to pay back every cent or face some sort of consequence.
Well, George, I wish you was a judge.
Yeah. Okay, my dear friend Ray, thank you so much, bro.
Good, George. Good to be with you, my brother. God bless you.
Don't leave yet. Hang on a sec. All right, folks. That's going to take us to the end of, what is today? Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday.
Our Tuesday morning tete-a-tete with our buddy, Mr. Ray Roberts. Time to pull the curtain down. But we're not going to do that without a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Luke chapter 9, verses 23 to 27 says, Then he said to them all, Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self. Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. Truly, I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God. Luke chapter 9, verses 23 to 27. Pilgrims, I hate to do this, but I got to go. And I want to thank you guys for spending an extra 20 minutes with us this morning. 20 more minutes. You're very kind. You're very thoughtful. And I believe it. I believe you guys did this because you're the type of people this country needs. You're people who care about the ills in this country. You know they can be fixed. Keep on plugging. It's going to happen in God's timing. Join me again tomorrow morning for another edition of Gudday Grenada.